Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology Debunking Mythology. Sattology means science of truth, the study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science or study of fake, lie, or imagination. You know my special guest today. He's a Rishi Muni, researcher and recipient of the first Sattology Award on Mahabharata research. And I gave him with full my heart and conviction. I'm nobody to give awards, but I gave because I wanted to honor him in little way I can. And gradually, we want the awards to be sponsored so that we can give good money to the researchers also. And whenever that happens, we'll give him post-dated check with a real check and award Nilesh Oak and his contribution to our society a lot more. So let us welcome Shri Nilesh Nilkant Oak.
Namaskar, Aditya ji.
Namaskar, namaskar. And so one of the things which comes to the mind is the social media nowadays. Huh? कल अपने अभिजीत अय्यर मित्रा को बैन कर दिया. So they put him in quarantine, and I know he speaks openly. I would say to put it nicely, and if he's watching, he'll be laughing when I say openly. He speaks everything openly. But the we read from Mahabharata Ramayana that all the weapons were specific, individual, and unique with Pandavas. All five Pandavas had different weapons, and all five Pandavas were equally good in Dhanur Vidya. Like not just Arjun. Arjun was the best, obviously, but everyone was equally powerful. Mahayodha, they were called. But you'll never find them begging from Kauravas or anywhere else for the weapon system or to match the weapon systems. They all got their own. They all got their own techniques, and this is how they fought the war. We will never see also an American president using an Indian social media, or even Russian or European also. They're so that's how the national pride is made. But India, such a large country of very intelligent people, still uses the American platforms and with American conditions. So, what do you have to say? That is it lack of innovation or laziness?
Thank you, Aditya ji. First of all, let me give you and our audience the greetings and best wishes for the Chaturmas. The Chaturmas in the sense of a very specific one. You can say Chaturmas means 4 months. And you can say, therefore, people actually lazily, you ask me, is it from a lack of innovation or lazily? I'll come to that point. But people lazily think 4 months like any 4 months. Even some of the researchers think like that. Okay, so there's a lot of confusion because of ignorance, but also because of pure laziness. Okay, and then arrogance. I mean, the ignorance and arrogance go hand in hand. So when I refer to, and today we will talk about this reference of Chaturmas and how ancient is this tradition of a Chaturmas. So 4 months, Chaturmas simply means 4 months. But in an intelligent society, everyone understood what it meant. Now people immediately say, oh, but how can it be only the 4 months of the rainy season? Well, therefore, in order to understand that, you have to know the context of a Indian subcontinent, the Bharatavarsha. How old is the tradition, or you can say the geographical climatology reality of a stable monsoon that possibly began long time before 30,000 BC, but definitely it stabilized around 30,000 BC. And of course, it will go through its ups and downs. And we'll talk about that. It's context for Ramayana, it's context for today's time, but it's also context for Mahabharata and Mahabharata dating also. Through this Chaturmasa, also it's a meditation on ecology. It's a why we do vrata. Vrata, particular type of a yajna, particular type of penances, japa, tapa, which is all related to kalpa, one of the 6 Vedangas, and that is directly connected with the ecology, with the balance, with understanding, preserving nature. Like Sadhguruji is doing Save the Soil. The Save the Soil campaign in a meditative way was there for these 4 months, when actually there was this specific period of Varsha Rutu or Varsha season. In the Indian monsoon context, Varsha Rutu is a 2 months, but as a Varsha season, you can say, as a Varsha Rutu in the sense of the actual Pratyaksha was like a 4 months, depending on which part of India you lived. But I haven't answered your question on the social media. Yes, what you just said, it applies to social media. It applies to all other our critical systems like IT systems that the government may be using, the military may be using in India. Also, the equipment themselves, right? The weapons and so on. And in this case, you mentioned all five Pandavas, actually all Yodhas of that time. And yes, it wasn't something suddenly they woke up one day and say, oh, there is a war tomorrow. Let me do something. No, it wasn't like that. It was a very long term strategy. I'm not a military expert. I mean, this is a great question for someone like Shiva Shastri, Dr. Shiva Shastri. But I would say India, maybe baby steps, but is going in that direction. Actually, under Modi ji, little bit that I read and come to know from some of the military experts, that's again not my main subject or not my expertise, that India is making a lot of things on Make in India front. Still, the very point that you raised is valid, which is to say, even when they are doing Make in India, much of it is essentially a foreign technology. Still, they hold the control, only manufactured in India. But also, as you may know, like on some fronts, India is in a related to military. India is indeed making internal, I mean, weapons and so on and so forth, which is great to see. But as you see, for example, going back to our ancient times, they went on. So Arjun is a good example. He went around and collecting weapons. Bhima was always keeping himself fit, okay, and practicing, ready for the war. Why are these lessons important? Not only in the context of a war, but in the context of the intellectual war that we are also fighting. Yesterday, I was at a social event. It was a celebration of the graduation of one family that we know, and of course, the friends very connected with Hindu Renaissance activity. And this is all positive. Having said that, it's also amazing to see, amazing in the sense, sad way to see, not a slight on that particular group or anything, is that how people are complacent. They just think like, just coming together and that's sufficient. So there are serious issues in terms of people not understanding that they have to do tapasya. Tapasya means research. Tapasya means original research, not some copy pasting, which is majority of Indians are into. Tapasya means original research. Krishna in a Upagita, like when he's ready to leave for Dwarka after the Ashwamedh, he says that tapo balam hi sadhanam, tapo balam hi sadhanam, tapo balam hi kevalam. By research, tapa is the only way you are going to achieve anything. With that, back to you, Aditya.
Great point you made, and also Chaturmas, you made a excellent point, and believe me, audience, we this comes with deep observation also. Not just comedians have a good observation of society, but also dharmic also. You know, See, the Chaturmas doesn't mean any 4 months; it is specific, where Sri Ram waited to prepare and then went to Lanka.
Yeah.
So that is Chaturmas, rainy season beginning and rainy season ending. And most of the sannyasis during this period, they rest in one place and they engage in tapasya, and then they grow their hair long. Many examples are there, many great acharyas who have done this. So people must observe Chaturmas. It's a natural time for rest, spiritual focus. This is one period, and another is Kartik Mas, the two months.
Mm.
So one last question before we start your presentation, and today is going to be very, very interesting. I'm also eagerly looking forward. It's the first time he's presenting. So the Twitter, social media. The social media is an American platform. I'll repeat that question. That is an American platform. Facebook is an American platform, and we see that the no celebrity in India, no, this is a new kind of colonialism, tech colonialism. Is a neo-colonialism where you are sharing your entire data by using your system. See, I'm an American. I'm using this channel. It is my country. America is my country, and India is my Sanskritic country, the country of origin. But the I can use this channel, but I get surprised. If I was in India, what would I use? I would have to force to use which people use the maximum, and which is American channels. YouTube, you can put any conditions on them. It's
Hmm.
like Royal Enfield motorcycle is being sold in US. Americans can put any condition on which engine you can bring or which profile, what kind of engine or what you can sell, but still ultimately it is Indian. At the end,
Hmm.
profits go to India.
Hmm.
Similarly, the same case social media. So why do you think that India has not been able to come up with their own social media, just like even China has done, even Russia has done? Russia has Telegram. Indians use Telegram also. That is Russian, based out of Dubai or UAE, somewhere, some part of the UAE.
Yeah.
So why this kind of issues? They, despite having so many software engineers or software workers,
Right.
engineers.
Well, I mean, I don't have answers to all of that. I'll just share some of my thoughts and insights, or even speculations to an extent. For most part, I mean, the political structure of India since 1947, I mean, they took pride, they took pride in being subservient to, say, Britain, for example. I mean, the West, they took pride. I mean, right now also, and again, this is Aditya ji, say, for example, in America, in the American context, or even in the Indian context, in a business context. I don't mean everyday business. I mean, in a specific case, and I'll give you one example of it, even in the American context. It makes sense to wear the dress code, which is suitable, appropriate for that place. Okay. So again, I'm answering a bigger picture, not even just like why India has not created their own technology. And the background answers remains the same. Okay. It is like, we have not even thought originally. So I'm glad you are asking these questions, and everyone should be discussing this. People say, "Arey bhai, usme kya wrong hai?" That is how lazy, how tamasic, how ignorant, and something that completely lacks strategic sense type of attitude is there. I'm not talking of any specific government or anything. It's widespread. Okay, at the roots, it's among the masses. So yeah, dharma. I mean, again, you mentioned like karma bhumi. I mean, we can talk of karma bhumi, janma bhumi, but I'm coining a word. I don't know if somebody has already done it, and that's great. Dharma bhumi. We can talk of dharma bhumi, karma bhumi, janma bhumi, right? So, but what I see, like spread all across, is like that sense. The strategic sense simply doesn't exist. So, do you know what happens? No matter whether it is the academia, no matter whether it is the social platforms, no matter whether it's the weapon, like people don't even think that they are capable of. And I would say our, like, the whole Nehruvian thing, they have done a good job of it. Then we have created this so many breakups. Again, thanks to the contribution of the West, but we should take um, our ownership of that problem. Like they might have done, but they're gone now, supposedly a long time ago. So the summary is, in fact, it is one of the documentary project at Pracham. So he said, why are we still thinking like that? Like in a very Western mode of thinking, which is what they told us. They told us, hey, we are doing this for your good. And I'm going to quote some reference from, and like last 200 years, and show you how they were playing. They were playing in the open, fooling us. And we, not only we love to be fooled then, we love to be fooled even now. Okay. And I mean, this is a long subject. Like, I keep on doing social experiments. I will take a YouTube talk of somebody, I'll not mention the name, and will send it to my few friends. I said, just watch it please, and give me your thoughts. And I don't tell them which way, like, what, and if I have any specific expectation. And time again, I wouldn't say I'm surprised, I have almost learned to expect it. People will give a very jaded, very boring, a typical response. So what I'm saying is that the situation we have here is because we may artificially feel like we have got the freedom 1947. Hell no. So one of the documentary, the title of the working title of the documentary of Pracham is that Sahib who never left. Okay. Yeah. So they have not left. So they have not left in the dress code. They have not left in the mindset. Okay. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of that. But think of a dress code. There is nothing wrong in wearing a dhoti. There is nothing wrong in wearing a tie. There is nothing wrong in wearing a three-piece suit and a coat and so on and so forth. It has to have a context. Now, what is the significance of a tie? Now, of course, it has become a cultural item now. I understand that. But the significance of tie was to, in the cold places, like, when you wear a shirt, like some top cloth, you can say, and the cold air shouldn't insert. So, like, you're going to tie it very nicely. That was that tie. Eventually, of course, in a fashion sense, it happens everywhere. It turned into like different designs and so on. All great. Now in India, in spite of extremely hot weather, like the medical representatives, when I was in India, I mean, I'm not criticizing them. They have to use it because of the uh, company code. But why the company is not even thinking originally? I would say the same thing, by the way, about our Indian television stations, not only the English medium and Hindi medium. Why even Hindi medium? I'll say English medium and all the other regional medium, which include Hindi. Okay. Why are they wearing a tie and a coat and everything? In certain contexts, they might wear it. Other contexts, why not have very comfortable, beautiful, well designed Indian traditional dress? Okay, I think there is an innovation required in Indian traditional dress. I will tell you that. That's why I don't wear them, mostly because I want the buttons in a certain way that it's easy for me to wear and so on. So I'm saying the sahibs never left. We are just copying that. And that particular mindset creeps into everything that we do or everything that we don't do. That's why we don't have our own platforms.
No, beautiful answer, beautiful answer. And also, I will quote you multiple times now. Sahib never left. And that is one line summarized about our colonial mindset. And believe me, when we live in the US, we miss India too much. I miss puri, I miss dabeli, I miss all this Indian food actually. That's the main thing I miss. And the secondly, I miss the people over there, friendliness. Even though we live in the US and you may think if you are in India and you may be blaming others, but when you are in the West, you miss all those things. But at the same time, when we make so our we are talking about Sanatan Dharma in the West to Americans, and many people are watching it, and we see many comments over there on Mahabharat research and live audience we have right now. It is it is such a beautiful culture, and many Americans are surprised with such deep yoga culture. And America, India gave yoga to America. India gave the core spirituality. Spirituality and yoga means the same thing generally, but to America, India gave vegetarianism to America. India gave veganism to America, and India has so many offerings. But why not their social media system? So I tell them usually in joke that all of them came to US to make for you
True.
because every 10 Indians need an in American manager to produce some output, unless they're part of the Indian military or those institutions which are very proudly Indic. And you can see how well organized they are. And if you really want to see a good example of organization, go to Maharashtra. Even small functions, they do manage it very well, very well. Our Sattology show is this time also. All the people who were managing mostly were Maharashtrians, and because they know how to manage everything, and and also from Bihar, very good managers from Bihar. So I will, Viriji, we can get started,
All
and
right.
today will be amazing thing. I'm just looking forward to it.
Yes, yes, yes.
I've got my popcorns and everything. I'm watching it, the show now.
Yeah, yeah. And so since you mentioned about the management and the comparing efforts, like thanks to Sonali ji, I mean, I was impressed. It's very challenging in an Indian function, I would say. But she just kept everyone on time and in a very polite and a very smooth way. I mean, that's also a challenge, right? Yeah, we have a very exciting stuff. I'm going to start sharing something very connected with what's going on right now, the time of the year, which is from the Indian lunar month perspective. The lunar month of Ashada is over. Right now, we are into the lunar month of Shravan, and then Bhadrapad, Ashwin, and Kartik. And just as Aditya ji mentioned, that this Chaturmas, and actually the way today we are defining Chaturmas, like the Chaturmas as a vrata, does begin with the month of Ashada, like halfway in the Ashada. And it's almost, I'm just giving you crude, rough timelines. And it does continue until the half portion, until the Ekadashi, Dwadashi of Kartika. Okay, that is in our times. Okay, but we are going to look at the deep tradition of a Chaturmas. It was directly connected with the climatology, geography aspect of the monsoon, which is seen, by the way, around the world, but very specific and in a very unique way, dominant in the Indian subcontinent, the Bharata Varsha, and surrounding area. In fact, almost the monsoon, the stability of the monsoon or the intensity of a monsoon, that monsoon related area can be used to actually define the spread of Bharatiya culture, the spread of Bharatiya civilization. And I'm not just referring to say the Midwest, I mean, Middle East part to say Philippines. Actually, that monsoon in some fashion goes around the world, around the equatorial belt. But that's a more detailed technical topic. People will just like Aditya ji, I'll mention something like this even in my live talks. And they will say, yeah, just please explain me a little bit about it. I said, there is nothing little bit to explain about it. I'm just giving you enough of information. Hopefully, many people become curious about it. They do their own tapasya, do their own research. Tapo balam hi sadhanam. That is the only tool. Just asking someone for 1 minute is not the way to go. You can get inspiration from such things, such as the conversations that we have. Okay. So Chaturmas is a very, very unique tradition in that way, and it is very old. Okay. The documented evidence I'm going to show you going back to Ramayana time. So that's like a 14,000 plus years, but it possibly existed before that. And we know that the stability of monsoon, of course, with its ups and downs, but the stable monsoon is there with us for last 30,000 plus years. And it also existed before, but it did go through many upheavals. Anyways, again, we will bring it for a specific context. So Chaturmas. Then today we are going to discuss one text. I may have alluded to that name somewhere in our past 100, close to 100 talks, but we never discussed it in this specific context with this intensity. The text is known as Mahabharat Nirnayamrut. Okay, Nirnaya is like a conclusion, decision, analysis also to some extent. Okay, but like drawing the essence, understanding, comprehending. Amruta is like the ambrosia, the English translation, which of course comes from Amruta. Amruta is like the ultimate good, the essence. Okay, that in that sense. And Mahabharata. Naturally, this is a text which is written after Mahabharata, trying to analyze the Mahabharata text. And obviously, it is a commentary by someone. In fact, we don't know, at least I don't know, who wrote this text. The place from where I found the reference, they also don't know who wrote the text. Okay. But what is interesting, Aditya ji, is that this particular text quotes many shlok from Mahabharata that sometime are actually even lost in the current Mahabharata text. Having said that, this is a commentary on a Mahabharata. So this could be relatively recent. But when I say relatively recent, I'm telling you that definitely this text is, say, 130 to 140 years old with respect to our time. This is very important to understand. It's at least 130 plus years old with respect to our time. And I'm going to quote something reference from that connects with Chaturmas, and that tells you, or that gives you another insight, as if like we need any more insights for the dating of Mahabharata. But I'm going to bring those up. And I will connect that again, Adityaji, with the other issues that you said. How come Indians don't have their own platforms? This is that same ignorance, same laziness, same careless attitude, same casual attitude that is responsible, I would say. For example, right now we have possibly 30 plus living researchers of a Mahabharata. And again, because Mahabharata Nirnayamrut, I'm just quoting Mahabharata. How many of them have bothered? I mean, they would consider themselves researchers. How many of them have bothered to know about this? And this is not somewhere hidden. At least the reference to this is not hidden. In fact, I did not find the original text. I'm looking for this original text for now 20 plus years. Okay, so I became aware of it some 20 plus years ago, around 2001 or 2000, 2001, somewhere there. And I have not found it, but I'm going to quote something from it. So that's the menu: Chaturmas, Mahabharat Nirnayamrut, and dating of Mahabharat. Specifically, as I said, the Chaturmas, just the word itself, Chatur, like quattro, four, uh, like a quadrant. Okay, so that's where the Chatur, the word from Sanskrit, is traveling and getting everywhere. Masa is the month. Okay. So 4 months, but not any 4 months, the 4 months of a rainy season. It's very important to understand. And again, Aditiji, when I quote this, the first immediate changing of a goalpost, digression, stupidity, nonsense is like, well, that 4 months can be anything. No, I'm going to show that that is not referring to any 4 months. We have a very deep tradition of it. Quickly to put the context again, it's very important. And I did, by the way, Aditya ji, yesterday I mentioned I was at the social function, and few individuals came to me. They referred to our Sattology talks, by the way. Maybe there were around, I don't know the exact number, around 100 folks there. Some people were just, asking other person, like, I think I know this person. I think, is this Nilesh Oak? And that was very cute. Then they came and we had a good conversation and so on. My point is, I give, and they love this. So I mentioned that every time I'm giving a talk on Mahabharata, I quickly summarize. They say, yeah, it's very important. Again, that puts us a context for us. And that's why this slide. So if you start with Arundhati Vasishta, start meaning you can start anywhere in the Mahabharata. It does not matter. Those people, those researchers who start outside Mahabharata, I mean, I think it is very illogical and a stupid decision. I'm using my words very carefully. There is no anger in it. There is only compassion. Okay. But if anybody wants to do research on Mahabharata and start somewhere outside Mahabharata, it is utterly stupid, nonsensical, and ignorant place to begin. Ignorant attitude to begin, like Sahib who never left. This is not limited to Mahabharata. This is also true for Ramayana. If you want to start with Ramayana, again, the Ramayana may have a different context, but it doesn't matter what your context. You have to begin with Valmiki Ramayana. Now, then you can go anywhere. So the point is, it doesn't matter where you begin. You may begin outside Mahabharata, you may begin inside Mahabharata. Like today, we are going to discuss a text which is outside Mahabharata. It is a commentary on the Mahabharata, just like Puranas have many references to Mahabharata. It is in a commentary. Sometimes the person's individual opinions and so on and so forth, or the information that he or she heard from somewhere, it is updated in the Puranas and so on. Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnay could be exactly seen like that. No issue with that. It's a commentary. And I'm going to tell you how fascinating the references are and how Mahabharata researchers who are currently existing, who are totally ignorant about it, but even how Mahabharata researchers of last 130 plus years, with a very few exceptions, have completely lost and completely missed this. Okay, that's the kind of careless, casual attitude that is being practiced. I'm not referring to very few exceptions. They are out of the ordinary. But majority of the people who are in the public light have shown utter carelessness, and it's very important to bring it out. And that's our goal. That's our dharma tradition. Okay. So if you start with, say, for example, Arundhati Vasishta, in fact, almost everything I'm going to show you here is inside Mahabharata, except the last one. So you are going to get a time bracket anytime after 10,248, but no Mahabharat war is not possible. It cannot happen. It cannot be a historical event anytime after 4636 BC. That's what Arundhati Vasishta tells you. Bhishma Nirvana evidence you just take that 95 plus days of Bhishma on the bed of arrows, combined with the phases and positions of the moon. Very consistent. It gives you a time bracket of 7000 BC to 4700 BC. That bracket fits beautifully with the Arundhati Vasishta. It actually cleans it up a little bit for us. Bhishma Nirvana and first part of Margashirsha, the fact that we know it war began on Kartik Amavasya. Okay, then the whole first Shukla Paksha of a Margashirsha, the war continued through it and went for a couple of days into the Vadya Paksha, the Krishna Paksha of Margashirsha. If you take these two references, Bhishma Nirvana duration, 90, more than 95 days, and the fact that it occurred during the first part of Margashirsha, that takes you to another bracket, 6,722 to 5,125. Last time, or a couple of episodes before that, Aditya, we discussed new evidence. Now, new evidence in the sense what? It's not a new evidence to Mahabharata text. It is looking at the same evidence. That's what science is, by the way. And that's what the original science is. That's what the revolutionary science is. You can look at the great quotes of great scientists, and they'll say, it's right from Einstein to many others. He says it's looking at the same data, but with a different insight that gives you many other things that you have not even understood or comprehended. That's exactly what happens with the Shakra Amavasya evidence. And I told you it's not a new evidence. And when I presented, I said, well, that came to me like 2 days before, before I presented. So Shakra Amavasya, and then you again combine this with a Bhishma Nirvana. Again, look at this slide and see how many times Bhishma Nirvana comes up. The point is, there are again people claiming themselves to be Mahabharata researchers, claiming themselves to be Indian researchers, claiming themselves to be Rigveda researchers, Saraswati researchers, Mahabharata researchers, Ramayana researchers. They will call their specialty anything. But guess what? They will call themselves Mahabharata researchers. They refuse to look at the Mahabharata text. And if by chance they look at it, they cannot comprehend. That's the kind of intellect they have. Bhishma Nirvana evidence, it is so clear that if anyone, this can be used as a litmus test of person's intellect, person's comprehension ability. If somebody reads Bhishma Nirvana related evidence from Mahabharata, and if they don't come to the conclusion that Bhishma was on the bed of arrows for more than 92 or 95 days, they should stop. They should stop right there. Okay, they have no right to study Mahabharata any further as a researcher, because if they cannot understand such a simple thing, they are only going to create vikalpa for Indian population, for Hindu population, for a dharma civilization, for dharma population, people who want to practice dharma. They are going to create confusion, delusion, vikalpa. Bhishma Nirvana, and then some folks, Aditya, they will say, oh, Nilesh only bases his thing on a Arundhati Vasishta. What kind of utter nonsense is that? Arundhati Vasishta begins this. In fact, Arundhati Vasishta is such a powerful, it kicks ass. Okay, people Hindi mein what you call bolti band ho jati hai, and that's why they start yapping, but with all kinds of change of goalpost, all kinds of digressions, and all kinds of ways to confuse the masses. Bhishma Nirvana is very powerful. Okay, this is what I'm going to showing you. Shakra Amavasya plus Bhishma Nirvana, it gives you another bracket, 7,258 BC, 5,258 BC. Don't change. My request, not that they're going to understand or comprehend it, my request to Mahabharata researchers, existing Mahabharata researchers of all genders, all ages, okay, all degree holders, it doesn't matter what your background is. If you claim that you've done something in the Mahabharata field and related to the dating of the Mahabharata, guys, this is for you. Guys and gals, this is for you. Look at any of this and in a methodical fashion, in a scientific fashion, in a Nyaya Darshana fashion, see if you can find holes into this. I will be delighted, because my goal is not to put 55, 60 on BC and saying, guys, this is it and no other. No, I am saying this based on the Mahabharata internal evidence and based on my study of Mahabharata of 30 years. Okay. If you bring different information, that's great. Many Mahabharata researchers of the past came up with some different dates. Okay. And I benefited because I studied their works. Okay. If any Mahabharata researcher exists today and he or she has a date or a claim for Mahabharata, I have studied their works. I can tell you in most cases meaning if I have not studied somebody's work, I mean, people are coming up every day. I can represent their position better than any one of them can represent their position. And this is something Adityaji I had offered when I was encouraging, and I still encourage people for coming out open in the open debate on camera, uncut, unedited. I said, we can even do this. Why don't you represent the other party, my position, exactly what is my position, and let people judge if they're representing in a true fashion. And let me represent their position. I have offered this, willing to do that. And the other party can be in the room or may not be in the room if they choose to be that way. And let people decide who represented even the so-called position, the faulty position of other Mahabharata researchers better. They themselves or Nilesh Oak. I mean, these are the kind of things I've offered. My point is, tapo balam hi sadhanam, tapo balam hi kevalam. You have to do tapascharya, which includes doing the Purva Paksha. I would encourage people to do this and find any holes in this. Don't go on a goalpost, change of a goalpost. Don't go on a digression. Don't go trying to fool people. If you really care for Indic Renaissance, just shed your tamas, shed your ignorance, and in a pure mind, okay, get into this Indic Renaissance. The oceanography, now we are still referring to Mahabharata evidence, but we are going out of astronomy type of evidence. So oceanography directly connected with the flooding and destruction of Dwarka. How do we get 5525 BC? We start with the 5561 BC, which only can be determined using 300 plus rich astronomy evidence of Mahabharata. Then you combine 36 years, which also comes from Mahabharata, saying Dwarka was flooded and destroyed 36 years after the Mahabharata war. That gives us 5525 BC. Then we find oceanography, significant, very fascinating evidence in the oceanography area from around the world. And these data points just keep on growing every day. Everything pointing to 5525 BC. We looked at the genetic evidence, 2015 Monica Carmen paper. If you look at, go back, say 30 years, I don't know the exact date right now. I had a pleasure of communicating with Professor Kennedy at Cornell University. He passed away around 2012 or so. He has done wonderful work in the archaeology area in related to ancient Indian civilization. But his work on physical anthropology, even that points to 5561 BC. Actually, that's one. Sorry, number 7 there. Significant anthropology change, physical anthropology, craniometrics and non-cranial evidence. That also points to if there was any significant change among the human beings of India in the last, I don't know, last 20, 30,000 years. That was between 6500 BC and 4500 BCE. Directly connects to the number 6, which is Monica Carmen paper on genetics. Again, we can connect beautifully with the Mahabharata 5561 BC on every single critical parameter count. Now comes to our subject. Now, Mahabharata Nirnayamrut is a commentary on the Mahabharata. We don't know who the writer is. We don't know when it was written. So we are going to say it is long time after Mahabharata. We don't know by long time how much we mean. Okay. And one more thing. This is a commentary on Mahabharata, but also Nirnayamrut. It's not to be confused with another wonderful text, again, another commentary on the Mahabharata written by Srila Madhvacharya. Okay. The Dvaita Sampradaya, Vaishnava Dvaita Sampradaya. It's called Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnay. And we have used evidence from Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnay of Madhvacharya in putting together Krishna's biography. Krishna born in 5633 BCE, around 27-28 June. That's when the Shravana month fell, coincided. So Vadya Ashtami, of course. And then Krishna completed his avatar, okay, in 5525 BC, coincident with the flooding and destruction of Dwarka. And just do the math, guys, 5633 to 5525. Now, this one was not determined by referring to even a single line of Mahabharata, Tatparya Nirnaya, the commentary of Madhvacharya, but independent evidence from Bhagavad Puran, independent evidence from Harivamsha, independent evidence from Mahabharata, each piece of it objectively tested using the latest and greatest of science, scientific acumen, scientific methodology, objective testing, empirical testing, and latest technology, all that pointing to 5633 BC to 5525 BC. Do the math, guys. It comes to 107 years. Now, that's the beauty of our acharyas. I don't know how Madhvacharya, what different references that he used some 1,000+ years ago, like a 12th and 13th century, which might be lost now, okay, or they are there somewhere, but we don't have access to. Based on that information, he came up with that number, 107 years of Krishna, okay, Krishna's longevity in this particular avatar. So my point is that's also again a great text. We use that in describing and building and also explaining Krishna's biography. I gave a talk here on Sattology channel. I have given a talk on the Sangam channel. I have discussed that in Jaipur Dialogues. And of course, I'm writing a book on it too. My point is the Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnay of Srila Madhvacharya is not to be confused with the today's topic I'm going to discuss, which is Mahabharata Nirnayamrut. Okay. So it is a commentary on a Mahabharata. Okay. We don't know exactly who wrote it. We don't know when it was written. We definitely know that it existed 130, 140 years ago, which is to say all the current Mahabharata researchers, okay, it is this particular text existed long before their times, long before any one of them were born. And this is documented in the book related to Mahabharata, related to astronomy. So anyone claiming using astronomy evidence should have looked at this, and you will see how much ignorance exists. But my point, Aditya ji, is it's not, I'm not blaming any Mahabharata researcher. How come they did not refer to Mahabharata Nirnayamrut? That can happen. Okay. I mean, Mahabharata is so vast, even just the Mahabharata text. Somebody will come to me and say, hey, you have read this Mahabharata many times. Can you tell me more about this story? And they will say, they will quote some name or title. And I would say, I don't remember reading it. So that is possible. But it will be very interesting to see now that we are doing this episode and I'm quoting these references, what is the reaction of these so-called existing Mahabharata researchers who claim to have done some research related to the dating of Mahabharata. Let's begin. So the Chaturmas in Ramayana times. Now, remember, by the way, Madhvacharya discusses in his Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnay, he admits that, yes, because of the ravages of time and people writing down on the palm leaves, and when the word is not visible, they trying to use their information, intellect, their knowledge to try to come up with alternate words. Yes, there are variations, variations in the sense, patha bhed, that is the right word. Okay, translation error, transposition error, transliteration errors, and then sometimes interpolations also. People come out of emotions. Now, this is a good and bad of Indians. Like, yeah, emotion is very important, but you cannot be emotional and foolish in every place. There is a room for emotion. It is to be thoroughly enjoyed. Okay, emotion is required for doing objective research. Not many people realize that. But you should also know where the emotion is not the method to push something. Anyways, so Chaturmas in Ramayana times, what I was telling was Madhvacharya has acknowledged. I mean, it's a well-known thing that there are translation errors, there are transposition error, transliteration error, transcription errors, and even interpolations. The beauty is that in spite of these additions, errors, and so on, when you look at either Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana, or Vyasa's Mahabharata, and you look at all the evidence and test it in a objective fashion, in a scientific fashion, using the latest science and technology and a math, and by latest, you can use the old one too. Nobody's stopping you. As long as it can be validated, it can be tested, it can fits the standards of gauge R&R, guess what? It will lead to, from a dating perspective, it will lead you to very specific times, 6 millennium BC for Mahabharata, 13 millennium BC for Ramayana. But even the other aspects, non-dating aspects, you'll find a beautiful consistency among these texts, how they are connected with each other, Ramayana and Mahabharata. In fact, Adityaji, that's what we will take up sometime next. I don't know exactly when, because I still have a few things, critical things to discuss on Mahabharata. The connection between Ramayana and Mahabharata, how beautiful it is. In fact, before we began, you were just mentioning about the whole chaotic, useless, ignorant, stupid discussion about the six kandas of Ramayana and seven kanda, and is the seven kanda added later interpolation, not part of the true Ramayana? Utter nonsensical stuff. I mean, I just keep on, like, hitting my hand against my forehead and say, why do people not read? Why do people not become expert or develop some basic expertise, forget experts, in understanding how to understand logically something, how to connect the dots? But people are just interested in blabbering on some sidelines without actually doing the tapasya. Tapo balam hi sadhanam, tapo balam hi kevalam. There is no alternate, there is no shortcut, guys, other than doing basically a deep research of your own, understanding of your own. You, other people can provide you encouragement, they can provide you inspiration, but it is you who have to finally do it to convince yourself. Otherwise, you will always be fooled by sahibs, the who have never left. Okay, they are everywhere. Three-piece suit sometime, with beard, no beard, in all forms they will come. Chaturmas in Ramayana times, we actually quickly, just to show you, this is 14,000 years ago. And yes, but I think Adityaji, you mentioned that point, that after Ram kills um, Bali, Wali, and then now they have to start looking for Sita. But that time, actually, we have climatological records, by the way, about the intensification of monsoon at that 13 millennium BCE. Heavy monsoon. Of course, even today also it feels heavy when it pours. Okay, it has become a bit of a uneven the way it comes. Even in the last 20 years, I have seen some changes. But anyways, these are hard to define. But going back to say 14,000 years ago, by the way, we have records. Like sometimes some people will fight with me about this monsoon, when I go give public lectures, and they will talk about some, I know about this 2000 years ago, something happens. It's like, guys, just stop. Which one you want to know? There is sufficient data going back to 50,000 years. And even when I will give that as an answer, they don't understand. They don't want to even comprehend the answer. They are into their own emotion that they know stuff where they don't know anything. Okay, and I have those videos. By the way, I insist on a video recording for the reason, if I say this will be like, some people may think I'm making up stories. When they are captured on the videos, there is such a beautiful evidence of some person just going on a tangent, and just through their even try, they pretend they're asking question, they're not asking question, they're giving a lecture sometime, and then, you know what, Aditya, right there they will bring out all their ignorance, okay, and put it and present it there. Therefore, recording is very important. Okay, whether it's a debate, whether judges of the debate giving their verdict, how they analyzed it, everything must be on the debate. That's a requirement in our times, because it's a Kali Yuga. Okay, and Jivan Rao is coming quickly, very soon, with the Kali Yuga. When did the Kali Yuga begin, and the full evidence? But back to this Chaturmasa. These are all the references I'm showing you. These are from Kishkinda Kand and of Valmiki Ramayana. So after Rama killed Wali, Ram and Lakshman, because remember they are in a Vanvas, they don't want to enter a city, especially Ram. So they stay outside the city in a cave. Okay, this is the northern Karnataka. You can think of it right now. I mean, just for visualization, near Tungabhadra, that area, that is the Kishkinda area, and they stayed there for that 4 months. Okay, so the words, remember, Purvo ayam varshiko masa. Now, Varsha, people, we think Varsha in the sense of a year. What people don't realize is why we take year, why we call it a Varsha. Because in Indian context, it was the beginning of a monsoon was such a predictable and stable phenomenon that people connected. See, otherwise, if you're just going every day and not carrying your smartphones, you have no need to. It may be difficult, or you may forget which month is going on, how much time has gone by, and so on. Of course, that's why there were yajnas and maintaining of the panchanga and so on and so forth. But the Varsha, beginning of a monsoon, beginning of a Varsha Rutu was such a perfect, predictable, stable event that you say, oh, another year has gone by. And of course, all seasons were used in that fashion too. But so that's why it's Purvayam Varshiko Masa. And then you can see the Shravana, Salila, Agama, and so on. Pravutta Saume Chatvaro Masa, 4 months. And I'm saying that is a connection with the rainy season, not just random 4 months. That is not what it is. If you go to the next one, Chatvaro Varshika Masa. So they say, oh, yeah, 4 yearly months. No, 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 no. 4 months of the rainy season, guys. Okay, grow up if not clear to you. And so he's saying, I'm finding these 4 rainy months to be, very, very emotional. Rama is saying, because Sita is not with me, and so on. And again says Varsha Samaya Kalam too, and Chaturoma, Vyatita and Chaturomasa. Now the 4 months have gone by. Again, 4 months of a Varsha season. This Chaturmas, and the reference is not here, Adityaji, but there is a reference in Valmiki Ramayana, right in this chapter, where Lakshman or Ram, they are thinking of Ayodhya. Ayodhya is always on their mind, the Janma Bhumi, and they are saying, that's why we have Janani Janma Bhumischa Sargadapi Gariyasi, that is from here. Ram or Lakshman, but they're saying, oh, this is the time, and Ashada Nakshatra, and like Bharat must be deciding which vrata he's going to do for the Chatvaro Varshiko Masa. That is how the old tradition is of doing the vrata, japa, tapa during this Chaturmasa. At least 14,000 years and before. We just don't have a documented evidence, at least that I am aware of. So I'm just telling you how deep this tradition is. And now it's context for the next thing. Quickly, what I want to show you, again, it may not be easy to see, but this is the point of SS where I've written, is this summer solstice. Think of 21st June. Okay. Now, summer solstice in the Indian context directly connected with the Varsha season, monsoon. Okay, that's where it begins. Now, at any individual place in India where the actually monsoon comes and hits you, it's different. In Kerala, it's going to come way early, and sort of, it's a Nairutya monsoon. The Rakshasas, Nairutya is what? Southwest with respect to India. That's where the clouds are coming, rainy clouds are coming from. That is the direction of a Lanka. That is the direction of a Ravana. That is the direction of Nairuttas, which is a reference to the Rakshasas, reference to Ravana and his folks. Okay. It's not in the southeast direction towards Sri Lanka, guys. It is southwest in the Nairutya direction. That has a connection with the Ravana's Lanka. That's a different subject. But you see how it's connected? It's a Nairutya monsoon. Okay, because there is another monsoon too, by the way. Quickly, so summer solstice here. Now, from here, look at the position of the sun. Okay, this is the Earth, this is the moon's position. If the moon is diagonally opposite, that means that is the full moon, the Purnima. And we want to decide which month it is. How do we decide? By knowing the nakshatra of the moon as seen from the Earth. So quickly, the point here is, this is Ramayana times. The summer solstice was near Uttara Ashada, and that's what Ram is referring to, or Lakshman is referring to. On the Uttara Ashada nakshatra, Bharat must have decided which particular tapa, japa, vrata he is going to do in Ayodhya, because the Chaturmas is here. And now, so it is, so sun is going to start from here, of course, and is going through this whole Varsha season. And remember, in the Indian context, the Varsha season is almost that goes into the Sharad Rutu, depending on the location. Say in the Kurukshetra, the rain is not that long. It's for a short time, like 2-3 months in the middle. If you come to, say, Mumbai, okay, the rain goes for a very long time. I mean, it may begin in June, and actually it is there in September, even October, and so on. Okay. Anyways, so it changes based on the location. And then we have a totally different, another monsoon, the Ishanya, going into the Bengal area, Tamil Nadu, and so on. Odisha will not go there today. Remember, this is on the west side, Karnataka. That's what we're talking. So this months, now, if you take this nakshatra and find the corresponding zodiac. So this is Ashada area, which is what? It is the end of a Dhanu nakshatra. After that, this is a Shravan, which is a area of a Makara Rashi, okay, or a Capricorn. And after that, you are going to get a Kumbha Rashi, okay, and then the Meena Rashi. So Makar is here, then Kumbha is here as we go through the time, the 4 months of Varshik Chaturmas of the Ramayana times. Then you are going to come to Meena Rashi, and then final, almost the end of it, depending on the location in India, a Mesha Rashi. I want you to remember this, okay? So in the Ramayana times, 14,000 years ago, the position of the sun is going through which Rashi? Of course, we know the nakshatra, Uttara Ashada through like Ashwin, Ashwin Bharani. But as a Rashi, because that has connection with the way that it is described in the Mahabharata Nirnayamrut. Makara Rashi, then Kumbha Rashi, then Meena Rashi, and a Mesha Rashi. Okay, each Rashi is of a 30-degree. Sun takes 30 days to go through it. So these are the 4 months of the Varshika Masa, Chaturmasa. Okay, let's go to Chaturmas of our times before going to Chaturmas of Mahabharata, and we will end there. This is a Chaturmas Vrat, how to do it, when to begin, a shlok from our times. Remember, that is the beauty of a Sanatana Dharma civilization, Sanatano Nitya Nutana. With time, the lunar months that coincide with a specific season change. Okay, so quickly I'm going to go back for a second. Here in the Mahabharata times, in the Ramayana times, if you want to know, this is the position of the sun, but which were the lunar months? You know where it began? The lunar months of Ramayana times for the Chaturmas were what? Were either Pushya or Magha, somewhere there, just like we will say Jeshta Ashada in our times where it begins. In their times, it's a Pausha month, Magha, then Falgun, then Chaitra, and Vaishak. Those were the months. Okay, so for simplicity, I will say Magh, Falgun, Chaitra, Vaishak. Those were approximately the lunar months of the Chaturmas of Ramayana times. How did I figure it out? Exactly opposite to the position of the sun, the full moon position is what decides what the lunar month is. So Magha, Falgun, Chitra, and Vishakha. Means Vaishak. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So those are the 4 months. Now think of in our times. What has happened in our times? It begins, if you look at the 21st June, and everyone should do it. Look at the position of the sun around 21st of June. It is going to be in the area of Ashad in our times. That's where it begins. That's why our Chaturmas begins there. It's connected with a summer solstice, and it goes for approximately 4 months. I said approximately because depending on the location in India, the length of monsoon would change. It's a geographical phenomenon. It's a climatological phenomenon, and so on. Okay, it might continue longer for the western belt, like say Maharashtra, Gujarat, or further down to Karnataka and Kerala. So Ashada, that's where it is beginning on Ekadashi. That's where the Warkari tradition of a Maharashtra, they go to Pandharpur. Okay, they have already, done the initial work of the agriculture, sowing the seeds, and that stuff is all done. Now they're taking a quick break, walking to Pandharpur to take the darshan of a Vittala. That is around the Ashadi Ekadashi, not around. They aim for it so that they are in Pandharpur on Ashadi Ekadashi. Chaturmasya Vrat begins. They go through different Vrata, Vaikalya, the Tapa, Japa. Everyone decides based on their own. That is the beauty of a Sanatan Dharma again. Okay, you can decide your Swadharma, you can decide your Swadhyay, you can decide your Yajna, you can decide your Tapa. Varshikas Chaturo Masan. Okay, so that's this 4 months of the Varshika. Don't just say yearly 4 months. Varshika of a Varsha, that's what the significance is. And then refer to this reference, Asambhave Tular Ketu. Now, what this is referring to is some people will, if they cannot do it for all 4 months, at least do for a certain time. And what are the typical 2 popular months that people do? Aditya mentioned one. Aditya mentioned Kartik, like Kartik by itself, and that is again done in all over India. That people will take Kartika Mas and do some special Vrata, Vaikalya, Japa, Tapa, like do some kind of a very special thing during that time. Another month is a month of a Shravan. Okay, there also people will say, hey, at least I'm not going to do all 4 months. I don't think I can control myself that much, but I'm going to do something focused for the month of Shravan. Okay, so that's another month you see. It begins with Ashad and it ends with the Kartika Shukla Dwadashi. So Ekadashi, and then the next day Samapti. Samapti to Kartika Shukla Dwadashi. Why do we do that? So this is in our times, guys. Why do we do that? Say Chaturo Varshikam Masan, what you do from there, Shravan May, what you do, in Bhadrapad, what you do, in Kartik, what you do, Ashwin, what you do, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, this is what I'm showing here. So this is just a sun at the summer solstice point. It's just beginning. And as the sun's journey, I'm telling you the Rashi, the English, the zodiac. Okay. So the English names also I'll give you, but the Sanskrit name. So Mithun, which is Gemini. Okay. So in our times, the Rashi, if you want to look at the zodiac, it is Mithun, Karka, Simva, and Kanya. Please remember this in mind. I told you the Rashi of a Ramayana times through which the sun was traveling during the Chaturmas. Okay, Varshiko Chaturamasa, right? Okay, 4 months of the rainy season, very important. In our times, the sun is traveling through Mithun, Karka, Simva, and Kanya. Okay, in our times. Now, quickly go to the Mahabharata times, and we will be done very short. Now, the Chaturmas during the Mahabharata times, and Mahabharata text itself doesn't describe it. Now, just pay attention. Now, this is where either you get it and you feel dazzled and you feel aha moment, or you are totally lost. Mahabharata itself doesn't discuss a lot. There are some descriptions, but not a lot about Chaturmasa. There is a description about Vrata and so on and so forth. You get a lot of that stuff in Shanti Parva, but not specific references to season or anything as relates to. I mean, we know the season, Varsha Rutu, but with reference to the nakshatras or the Rashi. But the Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnay, a commentary on the Mahabharata. We don't know who wrote it. We don't know when that was written, but definitely that existed 140 years ago. Mentions something. And you know what? Entire Mahabharata does not have a mention of a Rashi. Of course, that does not mean it did not exist. It used a nakshatra system. Because if you go to Surya Siddhanta, okay, you are going to find all the Rashis. Mesh, Vrishabh, Mithun, Karka, Simha, Kanya, Tu, Vrishchik, Dhanu, Makar, Kumbha, Meen. You're going to find all the Rashis in the Surya Siddhanta text. So it existed in a Siddhanta text. It was for whatever reason which we don't know. And if anyone wants to do research, they should do it. It was not used in the epic. Epics stuck with nakshatra. In fact, it is so consistent that when we find a reference to zodiac, reference to Rashi in Valmiki Ramayana, in the Balakanda, we see it in the connection of Rama Janma, we know that those verses are tampered with. There is a mention to Karka Rashi, there is a mention to Meena Rashi, there is mention to some other Rashi. That doesn't mean like the original references are lost, but definitely somebody has tampered with those references, because entire Ramayana, entire Mahabharata does not use Rashi, whatever may be the reason. But Rashi was known to Indians. I mean, they invented it, you can say, just like they invented nakshatra system. So the stars were there. They did not invent the stars. They were there. But to use that in a very creative fashion for astronomy and therefore for prosperity, for navigation and agriculture, that was done by Indians. Okay. So my point is, it's very important not to confuse. The nakshatra system is there in Mahabharata, nakshatra system is there in Ramayana, but they did not use Rashi system. So if you see a Rashi reference in the original Mahabharata or Ramayana text, you should know that that's a very likely an interpolation. Now, Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnay is using a Rashi to describe a phenomenon of a Mahabharata times. Now, this text, by the way, Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnay, today I couldn't find a copy after searching for it for last 20 years. And please, guys, after watching this, do not suggest me to check some library, guys. If you are serious, go check it yourself, find a copy of it, make a photocopy of it, and then send it to me. I'm not asking for a copy of Mahabharat. What is that? Aditya help me. What is the name of the book of Madhvacharya? Tatparya Nirnay. I'm not asking for a copy of a Tatparya Nirnay. I'm asking for a copy of a Mahabharata Nirnayamrut. Okay. Not asking for a copy of Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnay, because people have sent me in the past when I asked for a Nirnayamrut, immediately they feel like they have done something. That's how careless, casual these things are. People take. Nirnayamrut, not Tatparya Nirnay. I have a copy of a Tatparya Nirnay with multiple translation, multiple commentaries. Okay. Mahabharat Nirnayamrut. Okay, so let's look at this. Just before that, the reason I'm pulling this is because we have lost it. I mean, at least I have not found it in last 20 years. Now, Shankar Balakrishna Dikshit refers to it 140 years, and that's how I know. And he has quoted the shloka from this text, and that's how we know the shlok that I'm going to show you today. And it's amazing, fascinating, dazzling connection for the dating of Mahabharata. Okay, but how we have lost? Just quickly take a minute. Actually, we have gone over time, but Aditya with your permission, I want to walk people through this. This is so fascinating. The source is at the bottom, so you can read that. Go look for it. This is Griffith writing, by the way. Thus a British guy, thus prominently bringing the matter before you, whoever he's writing to, is simply to suggest, another British officer, by the way, whether it will not be advisable to ask the government, by government, the British government, to put us in a position that we may be able to assure the Hindus that the books sought for are to be placed in the college library for the benefit of the public, meaning the so-called Hindu public, Indian public, and to remove the apprehension that they are to be sent to the secretariat only to be forwarded to Europe. I hope you understand English. He's saying, actually, guys, we are doing this to take this text, steal them, send it to Europe. Okay. British understood the importance of an Indian text. Indians did not understand possibly them then. Of course, there are always exceptions. There are exceptions then, there are exceptions now. But even they don't understand it now. It is a fashion to be like a literally woke. Okay, but you have to take it to the okism, guys. Okay, appreciate, understand, and you won't, unless you study, you will not appreciate. You think it's written in some Sanskrit, some shlok that is to be chanted during the time of puja. That kind of foolish understanding we have for these texts. But these guys are sending it, but they're saying, hey, we don't have to tell these folks that we are going to send it to Europe. When once the books are in the library, there would be no difficulty in supplying copies of them for the use of scholars in Europe. This is the idea, because that time the Indians didn't have a power, okay, the ordinary Indians, but still they understood to the best of their abilities that these guys don't have right intentions. Okay, the British colonialist, they don't have right intentions. By giving out that we want books to preserve them here for the benefit of the Indians, he's writing in the Indian context, we can engage the general sympathy of the people on our side. They're fooling us in broad daylight. They were fooling, they are fooling now. And their lackeys, remember Aditya, I said the sahibs have not left. Okay. They are fooling us every day. And we are just busy in a dancing and party and a cricket and a Bollywood. What kind of nonsense is this, guys? And then, if the civilization is such lazy and tamasic civilization, then it deserves to be get gotten rid of. So far, because of the few great individuals, this has survived. Okay. But don't take it anything for granted, guys. Okay. Whereas when it is known that they are sought after only to be removed from this country, we cannot reasonably expect them to sympathize with us if they do not oppose, though the money and individual energy will work as far as it can, which is, of course, they were using all kinds of bribes. Now they will sit there and say, I'll talk about all the corruption in India. And yes, unfortunately, corruption is there in India and on a massive scale. And, some great individuals are trying to curb it, remove it, eliminate it. But it's not a one-man job. It's not a few man job. It's a job of everyone, every one of us. But the point is, they were British took it to a next level. The corruption exists in a society, in any world society, you can say that. But British took it to a next level. Okay. And of course, now we have taken it to another level. We as Indians, I would say, in last how many years. But, this says money and individual energy can only do to a certain extent. So get to their emotions. Okay. Brainwash them. And yeah, you go to Bollywood, you go look at the cricket, the whole organization, the corruptions, people in general, even the so-called pro-Indic people, pro-Indian people, and I'm not talking of researchers, the ordinary people who feel so proud and something should be done. How careless and casual they look at these issues. Many of them even don't look at these issues. They're not even aware. They're just busy, how fast they can go to Hawaii. I'm talking of Indians in America, like quick trip to Hawaii. That is of primary importance to them. Again, I have nothing against Hawaii. By the way, I used to cover in my one of my responsibility all the Western US, including Hawaii and Alaska. So Hawaii is beautiful. Indeed, go there. Don't forget these aspects. Quickly, these are the references, Aditiji, from that text, Mahabharat Nirnayamrut. Sorry, even I say Tatpari Nirnay. No, not Tatpari Nirnay. Mahabharat Nirnayamrut. It uses the Rashi. It uses the zodiac. This is now because we don't have the original text, and possibly it was lost in this. So I'm going to ask my great friend Sanket Kulkarni, the modern Dharampal of our times, who spends his precious time uh, on holidays, on the weekends, in the British Library and finds out some fascinating, marvelous stuff for our benefit. Okay. Again, when he does that, people don't necessarily spend time understanding, thanking, and say, "Hey, I will also join the effort." They just give him another suggestion. Can you find this? Can you find this? Guys, that's not how it works. Don't give suggestions. If you have a suggestion, think of doing it yourself. Otherwise, you are wasting your time and other people's time. Okay. He does a fascinating stuff. So, a lot of stuff could be there. The Mahabharat Nirnayamrut could be sitting there. And you know why exactly? Because of this. Okay. So Mahabharat Nirnayamrut, that definitely existed 140 years ago. Before all these fake Mahabharata dating efforts of last 100 years. Because 99.99% of them are extremely careless, casual, and fake. Okay. There is no dharma acharan in them. Even when these folks know that they are dead wrong, they just want to keep on pushing, okay, their claim through this to confuse the masses. I just don't understand the logic of it. But the ordinary people have to wake up, okay, and stop these peoples in their tracks. That is not to say that there is no value to what they're doing. When somebody comes with a different date, it creates a samshay, and that samshay has a great value, because that's how we get to refine even what we think is correct, like say 5561 BC. We still get to refine. I am continuously refining my own research. I never stop from critiquing my own research. Okay, that should not stop. That is our dharma sanatana tradition, sanatana nitya nutana. Quickly, last point, Aditya. So now what he's saying is the text is a commentary on Mahabharata, and it is talking about the Chaturmasa tradition of a Mahabharata times. Now, somebody will say, because this is a commentary and it may be possibly written 150 years ago, definitely not in the last 140 years, because it existed before that. But somebody may say it may be written 150 years ago, 200 years ago, 400 years ago, 500,000, 2000. How do we know that it is not written in the last 2000 years, last 400 years? Yeah, it's possible. But guys, the evidence is such a beautiful evidence. The people who don't like, for whatever their emotional reasons, not scientific, not logical reasons, their emotional reasons, 5561 BC, they can do whatever dance they want to do. Okay. The evidence is so powerful, so precise. There is, there is no room for confusion here. Only if you have a basics of common sense. What this verse says, Varshikas Chaturo Masam. You've heard that many times before. Vratam kim chit samacharet. What kind of, for this Chaturmasa, what kind of vrats are to be done? Now, this is a conversation between some folks of Mahabharata times, as written in this commentary. But the commentator is writing it. So he's writing, Asambhave tular ketu kanyayam tu visheshata. How are you going to begin? What specific thing you're going to do in the Tula time? And I'll tell you what the significance of that Tula is. Actually, it is here. I'll come to that in a minute. When Kanya, what is he referring to? He or she, they are the author of the text. He is referring to when the sun is traveling through the Kanya during this Chaturmasa, the 4 months of rainy season. What kind of vrata you are going to do, or what kind of vrata should be done? Okay, one should take. That's the kind of discussion. And what kind of vrata should be done when the sun is traveling through Tula, and what kind of vrata should be done when the sun is traveling through Vrishik. Guys, just pay attention for last 2 minutes. Okay, it's very, very important. What I'm showing you in our times, they're discussing this. They are discussing this in the Mahabharat time 7,500 years ago, and they were discussing, Ram and Lakshman were discussing 14,000 years ago at the time of Ramayana. Okay. Chaturo Varshika Masan Devasyotthapana Vidhi. Like, you're going to do a Upasana. Another time we'll discuss. Me growing up in a village, I have seen different tradition like my mother used to do during this Chaturmas. That's another subject. But here, what particular vrata or something that they're going to do? Shravane Varjaye Shakam, the vegetables, the green vegetables, etc., will be avoided during Shravan. There are reasons for it. Dadhi Bhadrapade Tatha, in the month of Bhadrapad, they are going to not take yogurt, not take milk product, let's say. Okay. Dugdham, Dadhi means only yogurt. In Ashwin, month of Ashwin, they are going to not take milk. Okay. And in the month of Kartik, they are not going to take a dvidal, like our beans, which split into two, if you soak them and like that. So in month of Kartik, they are not going to take this. Just like they're deciding this in our times, here, this is the discussion. What kind of vrata you are going to take during this? In the Mahabharata Nirnayamrut. Okay. And he's saying when the sun is traveling to Kanya, which is what? Virgo, what kind of vrata you are going to do? When sun is going to travel through Tula, which is what? Libra. Okay. What vrata you are going to do? And when the sun is going to travel through Vrishchik, what vrata you are going to do? And there he says, when the sun travels through these three rashis, Kanya, Tulaya, Vrishchik, actually, there are not many people to be seen. Why? Because it's a heavy rain. People are not gathering in the squares and sitting and interacting and discussing. Okay, that's what they are discussing. This comes in the Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnay. Now, guys, lo and behold, when is that time? When it is the 4 months of a Varshika season, Varshika's Chaturomasa, and when the sun is traveling through Kanya, it begins. The whole Chaturmasa begins with sun traveling through Kanya because that's the sequence. Kanya, Tula, Vrishchik, and Dhanu. Now, here it is referring to only three Rashis. Could be because of the location where the monsoon kind of, really focused on those 3 months and then it tapered off. Actually, that is true even in places like Karnataka, places like Maharashtra. By the time the Ganesh festival comes, Bhadrapad, and then Ashwin, like the Dashara or the Vijayadashmi time, the rain tapers off. Okay. And if you go to the north, it is gone long before that. So that will change. So the thing is, here we have a Mahabharata Nirnayamrut reference where the description of a sun traveling through, beginning with a Kanya Rashi, then Tula Rashi, Vrishchik Rashi is given. And it has been said that this corresponded to the time of the 4 rainy months. Bingo, guys. After this, I don't really need to say anything. Do you know what that time is? This is the time of the 6th millennium BC. This is the time of the middle of 6th millennium BC. Do you know what that time is? 5561 BC. And because the season is not like a suddenly changes one day with respect to lunar month, it takes about 2000 years. So yes, by taking the middle of 6th millennium BC, that's what this evidence points to. We can go like say 1000 years plus minus, that's perfectly fine. You can go even 2000 years if you want. There is no need to it. The point is the median position is exactly when the Mahabharata war happened. Not a surprise. 5561 BC, we know how it we arrived at, but as a range, we can say from 6500 BC to 4500 BC. Guys, this is based on not even the Mahabharata text, but a commentary on the Mahabharata called Mahabharata Nirnayamrut. We don't know when it was written. Definitely, it was written long time after Mahabharata. We don't know the author. We actually don't have the original text now. Too sad. But S.B. Dikshit has himself seen it, and even he has given who published it 140 years ago, and so on and so forth. If anyone can find it, Mahabharat Nirnayamrut, not Mahabharat Tatparya Nirnay of Madhvacharya, please bring it to my attention. The PDF file would be great if you can scan it and do this. But this is it, basically a commentary on the Mahabharata written more than 140 years ago. And just talking not about the Mahabharata dating, talking about the discussion of the Mahabharata times, how the discussion of a Chaturmas began and how they discuss which vrata to do, which japa to do, and so on and so forth. That simple discussion also takes you to the middle of 6th millennium BCE, 5561 BCE. Quickly, my books, if you want to know more, three books on Amazon around the world. Definitely, if you're outside India, this is a quick way to go for it. And if you are in India, Subbu Publications, okay, all three books, great package. Also get Bala Sankuratri's My Name is Ravana along with it. And with that, Aditya back to you. Sorry, I went over, but that was another something new, exciting stuff. More exciting than the Shakramavasya. Shakramavasya is very exciting. That is doing like people are sending me lots of private messages, and the one that is going to come out, or I forgot whether it already came out, Aditya. The one is like simple Bhagavad Gita. Today I showed you a commentary on the Mahabharata takes you to 6 millennium BC, 5561 BC. The evidence of Bhagavad Gita also takes you to 5561 BC and nowhere else. And we already talked about it. And that should be, people should go to Sattology and watch that talk
It
also.
is today, right now happening.
Yeah.
And so one of the things which really comes to the mind is with all these evidences we have, the people who want to doubt, they will doubt in any way
Yes.
because it's a atmate manite jagat. They want to doubt, and somehow they mistake critical reasoning to be foolish reasoning. Foolish reasoning is not critical reasoning. Critical
Correct.
reasoning means, I mean, you assume. I always say, assume that whatever is written is not a fact,
Yeah.
but have faith and read further and search evidences. That's critical reasoning. But if you have foolish reasoning, then you'll say Uttarakhand is out. And it's not just one, it's like going on for 100 years, 200 years.
Yes. Yes.
And without Uttarakhand, you won't understand many parts of the Ramayana also. So
Correct.
you to understand these two relations.
Yeah. I will add, without understanding Uttarakhand, truly, because people don't read, that is the problem. Without understanding Uttarakhand, people cannot even understand the Ramopakhyan that is given in the Mahabharata.
Correct.
You
Correct.
know, there is a very direct, subtle references to Uttarakhand in a Ramopakhyan.
That's
But
right.
the reason I'm mentioning Aditya ji is because many people, again, without reading the either, or if they have read it without comprehending either, they will say Ramopakhyan doesn't say this, therefore Uttarakhand is not there. Because they have not read Ramopakhyan with a critical attitude, and
That's
they
right.
have not read Valmiki Ramayana, including Uttarakhand. So these guys are also to be avoided. Tapobalam hi kevalam, tapobalam hi sadhanam. If they refuse to do tapasya, we shouldn't waste our time. We meaning people should not waste our time.
True. I mean, without tapasya, you can't gain anything in any way. And the very important thing, tapa, swadhyay, and Ishwar
Pranidhan, Ishwar
pranidhan.
Pranidhan.
Yeah, these three part are the important part of the Kriya Yoga. I mean, without this, you cannot understand Valmiki Ramayana and also Mahabharata also, because Mahabharata and Ramayana share many things common. Like first of all, geography. Second is they share the references because and Ramayana is in Mahabharata multiple times, three, four
Yes,
times. One is by Hanuman, one is by Markandeya, one is by Maitreya, and Duryodhan quotes it. Not others, Duryodhan quotes it.
everyone quotes it. Ashwathama quotes it. Drona
Ashwatthama
quotes it. Everyone quotes it.
Duryodhan quotes it. So
Yeah.
it's naturally, and also instead of blaming what British took away, I always think now we need to claim what British took away.
Hmm.
So like you should start instead of blaming them, you should start quoting that how the British, like you very wonderfully quoted today, and it just proved that they're legalizing the theft. And legal is a word which is based on your own strength.
Hmm.
It's not nyaya, it's not
Hmm.
niti, because nyaya and niti is different topics altogether. But English word legal means finders and keepers. Means if
Yeah.
I found it, I keep it, that's legal.
Yeah.
So the same definition Indians can also use it. They say that it's illegal for British to quote from Vedic texts.
Yeah.
It is illegal. But by the way, Vedas were written for the entire humanity, not just for Hindus.
Correct.
So
Correct.
anyone who follows them will become a follower of Sanatana Dharma. Anyone who follows them.
Yeah.
That is also option is also open. So people should not feel that is their knowledge. If you don't follow it, it's not your knowledge.
Yeah.
It's like
Whereas the legal system that you refer to was there to protect the rich.
the rich.
Okay, so that's why India's system, the so-called judicial system, is in like very sad state right now
It's still
because
the
of that. It's
British.
a British system.
It's a British system. It is designed to protect the British interests. And the Brown Sahib.
Yeah,
Sahib
who
गए
never
नहीं
left,
कभी.
who
Sahib गए
never
नहीं कभी.
left.
Sahib never left. And they are controlling the Indian government also, because Indian government looks to them for many decisions right now.
Yeah,
So thank you so much, Nilesh ji, as usual. Learning experience for me and also for others. And please do comment on the video and share the video widely. And we will have one of the Sunday shows where me and Nilesh ji will talk without the presentation. Yeah.
perfect.
So thank you and namaste.
Namaskar.